All right, it is global talk time, and this week, well, let's be totally honest. For globalers, I mean, you guys have a lot of content already, and I don't quite like where that text is, so I'm going to change it. Also, pad out the video, take a deep breath, and continue. All right, so this week on global, you guys, obviously with Salir coming to the game, as well as the return of Final Fantasy 1. Global is in no short supply of content, and whether or not, like, FF1 is a lot of repeats, so if you already have done FF1 before, then you've probably been looking for a little bit more, and here it comes. And if you haven't been looking for a little bit more, well, too bad. So this is going to be the first week of the selection quest. I think I thought in my previous video from last week that selection quest was coming, but I don't know. It seems to be launching this week, so there you go. The light-based elemental selection quest will end up netting you this guy, Camilo, Hound of the West, whose main job is Dragoon, sub-job is Sniper, and sub-job is Pugilist, or Fighter as I call it, just because that's what it is essentially on the JP side. But whether or not you are ready, this quest is coming, and some people have been asking a few other questions, so I'm just going to clarify something. You get the first copy of you get the unit essentially by completing the first mission. Like, it's brain dead easy to get these characters, like, absolutely. Like, you almost require not even a team. You can almost essentially just submit the application, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, we're not going to read it here, just take it. And as you can see, I have this character. I do have him, and as you can see, I also haven't made it very far with him because, in all honesty, Camilo is not one of my favorite characters, and, well, we're not going to get into it this video about why that is, but Camilo and his quest does require you to have a certain tier of characters to actually end up finishing him. And I'm just going to go in here before I talk about my overall impressions of the unit thus far. But for most people, like, who are curious about how difficult selection quests are, it's about the 7th mission where things end up getting very, very difficult. Again, I'll be interested to see whether or not Global from the very start will allow using of Camilo, because on the JP side, it wasn't until recently that we ended up being able to use the UR units that we get. So for global players, you may want to taper your expectations of whether or not you'll be able to use Camilo in the light-based quest. It may not happen till the 1.5 anniversary. So, you know, if it's not there, well, you're just kind of following the JP side and get over it, I guess is my message, but not in such an aggressive way. But yeah, just doing the first one is enough to get the character, so it's very, very easy. From there, however, it is a lot more difficult to end up getting the character maxed. Vern is one of the characters that I have put the most effort into completing on the selection quest, based on what resources I have and how much I'm currently willing to spend on it. And I'm just going to point out to where I was able to get Vern without being able to complete quest number 7. Is about this far, just short of LB3. So you really do have to put a fair amount of resources in to end up getting this character, or any of the selection-based characters to max, because once you get to LB3, to get to LB3, you have to complete number 7, and that requires more than a fair investment into a fair number of characters. And I don't expect it to be necessarily made easier, although there are more vision cards on the global side that end up buffing specific characters, so maybe that's going to be a ticket to being easy. Not entirely sure, but getting back to my overall impressions of Camilo, as some people have noted as a light-based spear unit, there are applications. This character has a lot of different damage types. Dragoon, obviously, you know, spears. We have Sniper being ranged, Pugilist being this. And my overall impression, based on what I've seen from the JP side, is that I've never seen this character make any kind of a splash. And I'm going to talk about that in relation to a few of the others. This is not a character that you see on the JP side, not because he's bad. None of the selection quest URs are bad. The only thing that they are essentially missing most of the time is a limit burst, but other than that, they're usually quite good. They have good TMRs and everything like that. So that's not the problem. The problem is that the heavy investment into light, lower tier characters may or may not be possible depending on how much you actually have available. And for whales, sure, it's easy enough, but for lower tier players, or lower, and I mean that in the sense of spending, not in terms of your quality, this may just not be really possible. So I guess it kind of, for the selection, a lot of the selection quests, while they might be interesting, think of them as more long-term projects and not necessarily things that you should be really going super hard for unless you are absolutely prepared and this is the character you really like, and go for it. Again, this character has, potential synergy with different characters, and as some people have said, well, he has range, so he could be potentially good for Jaden in the future. Okay, but that's still 3 months away for global, so that's not a major concern. But it should also be noted that in terms of him being a sniper, Jaden kind of fits better with a more magic-based team, I would say, since magic is kind of his primary concern, and I don't think this is going to necessarily fit him. And yeah, Fist Fighter is always interesting and a good job for sure. But I like overall, I think that Camilo is a fairly easy long-term project. And what do I mean by that? Again, just to clarify, if anyone thinks that I'm saying he's absolute trash, not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's not something to necessarily rush down. I don't think he's going to be meta. I don't think he definitely wasn't the answer to JP side's dark elemental problem and dark black witch, witch, dark Helena. I mean, he's good, but it's a heavy investment into light MRs, and you may need to use some of that MR material for other selection-based quests. Again, there's like essentially one coming every month. And if you want to talk about who was the most impactful of all the selection quests thus far, it definitely wasn't Gargus, it wasn't Camilo, and it wasn't Vern, it was Moraga. Moraga ended up seeing a kind of fringe use. He ended up showing up more than I thought he would. That's notable, if nothing else. Again, these characters are not bad. You just really have to kind of plan where your resources are, because getting through 7, if not up to all the way to 10 to get these characters max will require a fair amount of resources, and completing LB4 and LB5 definitely needs you to get there, or at least 8 or 9 for LB4 and definitely for LB5. So it is a pretty big investment. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about Camilo. I will leave it up to you whether or not you want to invest, but from my experience, he didn't make that big of a splash on JP, and of course you'll find good use with him, but may not be worth a large investment. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about freezes. The worm of the blizzard winds. Ooh. See, by the way, it's a worm. It's not a dragon. So everyone out there needs to stop calling it dragon. That's right. Being specious on this one. Anyway, this vision card, taking a look at party ability for ice units, ice attack up, critical damage up, max HP up if you get this card maxed, and activation ability for ice units, magic up, HP up, and magic attack resistance up. So this is very clearly, the vision card is essentially pretty much Solir. I mean, you could put it on any ice-based magic units. There might even be some more in the future if JP's side story is kind of an indication. So there is, application for this vision card. It's essentially for an ice-based party on Solir, although you could throw this on Rosa, and I think it would be a little bit better because Rosa kind of ends up being a nice little healer addition to a ice-based elemental party. Otherwise, the vision card is just good for ice attack units. I don't think that this vision card is necessarily at its peak yet, with units like Velric, Victoria getting her EX in the future, Laswell getting his EX in the future. Like, this vision card is very good in getting the first copy, but maxing it, again, unless you're like super all in on ice, I think this is one that you could maybe slower farm your way up. to max, because most of the really strong ice stuff is still in the future. You know, even Agrius on the JP side doesn't have her ice vision card or her EX yet. So I think there's, you know, this also potentially works with Gilgamesh. So I guess what I'm trying to say, my recommendation, this is kind of, you know, this is coming out around Salir to, you know, boost up Salir. But there's a lot of other units that you could throw this vision card on, and it benefits the party too pretty nicely. So there you go. Get this vision card. But of course, the other big thing is the worm that comes with it. And this elemental summon is pretty darn good for just mostly any character looking. HP is pretty darn good, but and agility is fine, but attack and magic end up being roughly the same. So this is kind of a everyone summon, I guess. It's for everyone, right? Like everyone can benefit from this. So it does have attack up, magic resistance up, wind killer, increased magic attack, evasion rate, spirit up, machine killer, increased critical evasion, and, you know, all the evocation, and of course fire resistance. So this summon is really good on a multitude of characters. You know, great on Gilgamesh. You know, it's half between attack and magic, which kind of works for him. It's can be used on Laswell. Of course, so there are better ones on Laswell. There are better ones for Victoria. You know, Barrett here could also be. But this summon is kind of just general application for the ice element. And I think that it's totally fine. I mean, I guess it's even just a generally fine summon for most characters, since it's such a middle of the road Esper. The big thing with this guy is that, you know, his attack is kind of the big thing that you're getting from him. If I remember correctly, well, it has lower healing power. I thought I remember on the JP side that it caused frostbite. Maybe that was something that didn't happen. Oh, that might have been a misprint back in the day, or maybe I just imagined it. Either way, I think the summon's fine. I don't think it's the most amazing summon. There are better summons to get your hands on, but he is good in the ice element, and he's good on a host of characters, just like the vision card. So let's move on. All right, and last but not least, Typhon challenge. Get it for the silver rim spectacles, an accessory. I wish I could talk about this, but I absolutely have zero memory of this event even happening. That's, I guess, my state of mind at the time. I only have one recipe, and I'm not even entirely sure I did anything for this. Wow. This must have been my holiday week off. So I don't have good advice for this one. It's Typhon. You can probably guess what he's going to end up with in terms of, you know, what kind of enemy he's going to be and whatnot, and who's specifically against him. I guess, you know, he's going to be Ice Magic Week because, well, you know, the lair. But yeah, if you're super interested in going for that character or going for this, then totally fine. I don't really think there's too much to talk about. You guys will just be going ahead with your stuff that you've had from the previous week. Plenty of stuff to farm, and at the end of the day, isn't that what Wotev's about? So yeah, I'm gonna quit rambling. Overall, Camilo, I don't think it's really worth it unless you're a fan of the character, in which case, have fun. You'll get good results out of him, provided that you can complete all the selection quests. Just kind of make sure that you've really invested into your light-based characters, because you'll need to get to the end, or to the finish line for that. And there are more selection quests in the future, so you should kind of, especially if you're like not a spender in this game, you should really look at the JP side and pick which selection quest you want. The summon is good. It's easy to get, usually if you have 10k Lapis. And if you're looking for an ice-based worm, not dragon, then there you go. Here's your selection quest. So choose either a fanboy, a buff man, a ghost, or a sister. There you go. Anyway, so hopefully you globalers are having a good week. I'll be doing some Wotv streams this week. And that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and see you next time. Oh yeah, and as a bonus treat for everyone who made it to the end, this is Umber Rays, just in case you forgot.